My name is Dave, and I am one of the owners and operators of a homeschool tracker. And I just want to take a second just to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know there are so many different things you could be doing at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday, so we greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your busy week to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker. Here at Homeschool Tracker, it's not only our goal and our mission to create tools and products that allow you to be more successful in your homeschool, but also to give you the training and the resources and the support to use those tools effectively. And that's what webinars like tonight are all about, really just to give you the time and the attention so that you can learn how to use these tools effectively. So a few housekeeping notes. We are recording this, and I will certainly send a link to a replay of the recording once it is finished. We are scheduled to go for about an hour or so, and then after that we can take as many questions as you have. Happy to stay on as long as needed to answer all of your questions. And I think that's it, so let's go ahead and dive right in. I want to talk a little bit about the agenda for tonight. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about where to find help with Homeschool Tracker. We'll go through the interface a bit and kind of get a feel for the menu. Then we'll talk about subjects and courses and the difference between the two. Then we'll dive into assignments, which are really all the heart of all your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. Then we'll talk about lesson plans, which are a really popular feature. We'll also discuss reports, including the daily task list. And we'll also go through workflows. And what I mean by workflows are really just how you would use Homeschool Tracker on a day-to-day basis. And then, like I mentioned, we will have plenty of time at the end for Q&A. So let's talk first about where to find help. So as you may have noticed if you've been using Homeschool Tracker, it's a very deep and feature-rich program. So there's a lot of features in there. And, it can certainly be difficult to navigate at times just because there's so many features. So probably the best place to get help are right here on webinars like this. We do these about once a month right now. And you can always go to our website, homeschooltracker.com, and then go to the support tab and then the training center. And from there, you'll see all of our scheduled training events. So you can click on that and get registered for that. You'll also find recordings or replays of all of the previous training events, including all of these getting started training events, and also one that we did on lesson planning specifically. It was a really great deep dive into using lesson plans within Homeschool Tracker. So if that's of interest to you, I definitely recommend checking that out. So in addition to the training webinars, we also have our help guide. And within the help guide are our getting started video guide. So right here, if you go to help.homeschooltracker.com, you'll find the getting started video guide, and it's 11 parts. Each one of these is just a few minutes, so it's kind of nice. You can just jump straight to the area that you're interested in and learn a little bit more about that. And then also here is the help guide itself. And so this is set up kind of like a reference guide. As you can see all the different areas that you can learn more about. And because it's a reference guide, I tend to tell people that one of the best features of this is you can kind of jump to the specific area that you are interested in. So for example, if we are in Homeschool Tracker, and let me just go to the calendar view real quick. So from within any screen within Homeschool Tracker, all you have to do is click on this help link up here on the top right, and that'll take you directly to the corresponding help page for that screen that you were on. So here is the agenda calendar view help page, and it has everything and anything you ever wanted to know about the calendar view, along with links to relevant areas. Now, another nice thing about this help site is that it is searchable. So let's say, for example, I wanted to learn more about days off. I could simply just search for that. And I can see a link right here to the corresponding page for how to set up days off within Homeschool Tracker. So again, this help site is really comprehensive. It has so much detail and a lot of great information. So definitely feel free to take advantage of that. Now, last but not least, email. So you can email us anytime at support@homeschooltracker.com, and we are happy to answer all of your questions via email. We typically respond to each and every email within 1 to 2 business days, and many times much faster than that. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out via email, support@homeschooltracker.com. Okay, so now let's jump into the interface. So I'm going to jump back over here to Homeschool Tracker. I'm just going to go back to our main menu here. And so if you've logged into Homeschool Tracker, you've likely seen this screen. This is the main menu. You can always access the main menu just by clicking on this little caret down arrow here. And the menu is broken up into 5 different areas. So up here in the top left, you have your schedules and planning section of the menu. This is where you'll find the agenda, both in calendar view as well as list view. You'll find lesson plans, your shared lesson plan library. And below that is the students section of the menu. This is where you can find anything related to your students. So for example, the student list is here. You can set up grade levels for your students. You can see the grading overview, which shows you each and every grade that your student may have received in a given time period. You'll also find the lesson plans and presets screen here, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And you'll find the transcript supplemental, where you can add activities and events, things that you would like to add on to your student's transcript. In the middle section of the menu, this is the reports section. So this is where you can generate reports. And reports can be generated as a PDF file, which you could then download, print, or email. And you'll find things like the attendance report, the course list, the daily task list, which we'll talk about later, report cards, transcripts, etc. And now, your menu may look slightly different than this, just depending on which options you have turned on or off. Now, in the top right section of the menu, this is what we call the Manage List section. This is really more of like a maintenance area of the program. And what I mean by that is that, you'll probably won't be in and out of here on a regular basis, but it's good to know what's here so that you know how to access and edit these areas. So, for example, each one of these names here is a different list of items. So, for example, you'll have the activities list, and it'll have all of your activities there. You could set up all your chores here. This is where you would add, edit, or delete courses, the grading scales, lesson plans, items in your library, etc. So this, like I mentioned, it's kind of more of a maintenance area. So if I wanted to create a new course, for example, I would go to the course list here and add it there. But probably not something you're going to be doing every day. Now in the bottom right section of the menu, this is the Your Account section. This is where you'll find your program options, your school profile, as well as the subscription and users page, where you can modify your subscription settings or set up accounts for your students to log in. So that's just a quick overview of the menu and the different areas within the program. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about subjects and courses and the difference between the two. So subjects within Homeschool Tracker, and the reason we talk about this is because it's important to understand the difference between subjects and courses as you're setting up your Homeschool Tracker account. Now, subjects, we refer to subjects as kind of the broad areas of study. So things like math, language arts, history, or science. Those would be considered subjects. Now, courses, those are the specific areas of study typically within a subject. So for example, Algebra 2, that would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of math. Composition 1 would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of language arts. And say Physical Science 1 would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of science. So you kind of have this hierarchy where you have subject, which is, again, that big kind of broad name like math, language arts, or history or science. And then below that, you might have very specific courses. So let's take a look at a quick demo to see how this plays out within the program. So again, from the main menu here, I'm going to go to our subjects list right here. Now you'll notice that I have 4 subjects in my account right now: history, language arts, math, and science. And you'll also probably notice that there's not like a whole lot of information here. And part of that's because, like I mentioned, subjects are just kind of these really broad, almost containers of courses, really. So there's not really a whole lot to edit or to change with a subject. So for example, let's go ahead and open up history. You'll see that I could, change the name. I can set it to a core or elective. I can see all the courses that are part of that history subject, and I can make this either active or inactive. But otherwise, not a whole lot to do here. So now let's take a look at courses. So I'm going to go click on the courses link here. And already you'll see that not only do I have more courses than I do subjects, but you'll also see that there's a lot more information here, which also means that there's a lot more things that you can modify or edit within the course. So let's go ahead and open this one. This is Ancient History 1. And you'll see that it is part of the subject of history. I could have a code associated with it. I can determine how many credit units it should be worth, how those credit units are calculated, what kind of grading scale it's using. If it's using weighted grading, I can add notes about the course. And again, I can set it to active or inactive. So as you can see, at the course level, you have much more specificity in terms of what the course is about, and how grading is calculated, all sorts of different things. Whereas at the subject level, it's just kind of this broad container of courses. So let's go ahead and create a new course. I'm going to click on Action, Add, and I'm going to create a new course. Let's call this Reading 1. And now for Reading 1, that should probably fall under the subject of language arts. Whoops. And I'm going to stop right there because you'll notice that as I was typing in language arts popped up here. And that's because this is a smart entry field. And you'll see these throughout the program. But basically, what it does is as you are typing, it's searching the corresponding list for anything that matches what you're typing. So in this case, language arts popped up. If I didn't know the name of the subject, I could always enter in a blank space, and I would see a list of all the subjects in the subjects list. But I'll go ahead and select language arts. And I'll keep all of the rest of this kind of the default for now because I don't necessarily need to do that at this point. But I'll go ahead and click Save. And now we will refresh this. And there you go. I now have a new course called Reading 1 that's part of the subject, language arts. So I can now start creating assignments and start assigning things to this course. So that's just a quick kind of demo of how subjects and courses work within Homeschool Tracker. Now, a few things to watch out for. We would recommend not using the exact same name for both the subject and a course. So for example, if you had a course called language art, or excuse me, if you had a subject called language arts, I would not recommend having a course also called language arts. Now, you could certainly have a course called like freshman language arts or language arts 102 or something like that. But having the subject and the course having the exact same name, I think you'll find that it would be confusing once you're in the program. And again, we like to think of subjects as kind of the broad area of study, and then the course as being much more specific. So as specific as you can get with the course name, I think the better off you'll be. Now, if you see a slash in the program, that just shows the break between subject and course. And if you don't see a slash, that means you're just looking at the subject. So let me show you what that means here because it's much easier to understand when you see it. So I'm just going to jump to the agenda real quick, and we'll go over this in a second. But I'm going to create a new assignment. And as part of the assignment, I choose a subject/course. And now, we had the subject and we have the course. But in the program, in various places, we tend to refer to it as subject/course. And that's just a way to basically save space so that we don't have a subject field and a course field, but we have kind of one combined field here. So if I hit the space bar on this smart entry field, you'll notice that I have history, and then I have history/ancient history 1. So if I selected just history, I would be creating this assignment for the subject of history, not for a specific course. However, if I select history/ancient history 1, now I'm selecting the course ancient history 1. And so it's just written in history/ancient history 1, showing you subject/course. So it's just a quick way for you to see, the break between essentially the subjects and the specific courses. So again, here is language arts/reading 1. This is the course that we just created. And that's how it's written here when you see subject/course. All righty. So now let's dive into assignments. So assignments in Homeschool Tracker, these are really the schoolwork tasks that we give our students to complete. So literally anything that you assign your student, we consider an assignment. That could be, a homework assignment. It could be a lesson in class. It could be a test. It could be a quiz. It could be a field trip. Anything that you are giving your student to do, anything that you're, assigning them and that you want to kind of track over time or give a grade to or anything like that, that's an assignment. And because of that, assignments are really the heart of all of your record keeping in Homeschool Tracker. So here you have assignments in the middle. And they can come from a couple different places. They could be created individually or in a series, and I'll show you how to do that. Or they can come from a lesson plan, and when those lesson plans go through a scheduler, it will generate assignments. And now assignments have a lot of data in them. They have information about the courses, they have information about the grades or the resources that you're using. And so because of that, the more data you put into the assignments, the more you can kind of get out of the assignments. And so from assignments, you can generate report cards and transcripts. You can have auto attendance records created. You can generate the daily task list. And all of those other additional reports, they typically all come from assignments. And so that's really why we think of it as the heart of all your record keeping. Now, a basic assignment entry form looks much like this. And in fact, we just saw this a moment ago. And each assignment requires, at a minimum, a student, a subject course, and a date. That's all you really need for an assignment. However, there are all these other fields that are optional. And of course, the more fields that you use, the more kind of reports or data you can generate. So for example, you can select your student here. You can choose the subject course. You can have an activity. Activities can typically, they can be anything really, but we like to think of activities as say like a lesson or a quiz or a test or a field trip. You can have resources associated with an assignment. And so a resource is typically a book that you might have in your library. PLC stands for page, lesson, chapter. So that's where you could put pages 15 to 20 or lesson 1 or something like that. You can set the date for the assignment. You can have a start and end time for the assignment. If you don't have a start and end time, it'll just show up as an all-day assignment. But if you do have start and end times, it'll show up on the agenda with those times. You can enter in grades here, so points possible and points earned. You can also enter in the time spent on this assignment. You can have that automatically calculated based off the start and end times, or you can enter it in manually. You can choose whether or not this assignment should be able to be rescheduled using our reschedule tool. And then you can set the assignment as complete. And this is really the key here. You can check it off as complete by either a teacher or a student. And now as soon as it's checked off by a teacher as complete, a number of things happen. So when an assignment is marked complete by a teacher, attendance can be recorded if you have auto attendance enabled, grades can be generated, time spent is calculated, and all of those reports can be generated. So it's not until you complete an assignment by a teacher that it really kind of goes in the books, so to speak, that it's really recorded. Okay, so let's do a quick demo on assignments. What we'll do is we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and we'll mark them complete. We'll do that both from the agenda view and the list view. So here I am back in Homeschool Tracker, and I'm going to click on Agenda Calendar View. So the agenda is just that. It's the list of all the things that you need to get done or that your student needs to do in a given day or week or whatever it might be. And you can view it in both the calendar view or in a list view. So we're going to start here in the calendar view, and you'll notice that the calendar view looks just like a calendar. We have the weekly view here. You can look at on a monthly view or day by day. Pretty straightforward. But let's go ahead and I'm going to create a new assignment. So I'll click on Add, Assignment Single. And so here's that entry form that we saw earlier. Let's go ahead and choose a student and a subject course. I'm going to choose Ancient History 1. And then we'll choose an activity. And most of the, not most of them, but these here where they say type to search, these are all smart entry fields. So if I hit the space bar, I can kind of see all of my activities that I have. I'm going to call this a lesson. I can choose a resource from my library. I'm just going to pick this one. I could put in PLC information if I like. And I could choose a date and a start and end time. So let's choose today from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then I can choose points possible and points earned. So I'm going to say that this is worth 10 points. Now I'll go ahead and click Save. There you go. Now I have an assignment on my calendar for Campbell for Ancient History 1, and it's a lesson, and it's lesson 1. Now if I double click on it, I can get a quick preview of it. And if I click on More, I can go into the full editor here. So let's say, today kind of came and went, and Campbell did her assignment, and now I want to go in and grade it. So I would just go ahead and open it up. And let's give her a 9 out of 10. And I'm going to go ahead and mark this as teacher complete. So I'm going to check that box. Now, once I did that, you'll notice that this grade of 90% showed up here. Oops. And now if I click save, a number of things happen. So first off, this got a little bit darker in color just to show me that that assignment has been marked complete. Then also this Campbell present showed up here. And so this is an attendance record. And that shows up because I have auto attendance enabled, which basically means that it assumes that if you have completed an assignment in a given day, that your student was likely present that day. So it'll go ahead and create an attendance record for them. Now, obviously, you can modify that or turn it off or on in your program options, but it is definitely kind of a handy feature so that you don't have to create attendance records on your own. But there you have it. I've created an assignment, I've graded it, I've marked it complete, and we're good to go. And now, kind of thinking through workflow, like I mentioned earlier, there are plenty of users that use Homeschool Tracker just like this. You know, each and every day they may go in and create assignments for their students. And then at the end of the day, you might go in and mark things complete and put grades on it, and then kind of do that the next day as well. So absolutely, you can use Homeschool Tracker just like this. You know, you don't necessarily need to plan and create all your assignments for the year or anything like that. You can just go on a day-by-day basis and do it just like that. Now, the other thing that a lot of folks do is they use Homeschool Tracker kind of in reverse, right? So let's say you're an unschooler, or you know, you just don't necessarily want to have all of your assignments in the agenda prior to actually doing them. You know, you're just not maybe you're using a different kind of planner. It could be a binder or whatever. You could go in at the end of the day, kind of like we're doing right now, and just add assignments for all the things that you did complete that day. You know, put in the grades, mark them complete. And then Homeschool Tracker really becomes more of a logging tool and a tracking tool and less of a planning tool. And that's totally fine. You know, we all like to plan differently. So you can still use Homeschool Tracker to your advantage by just logging all of the things that you did that day within Homeschool Tracker. And you can still, you know, generate all the report cards and do all the reports that you would otherwise. But it doesn't mean that you have to, you know, put everything in here ahead of time. So just, you know, some kind of food for thought in terms of how other folks have been using Homeschool Tracker and how you might use it in your homeschool. Okay, so that's creating one assignment at a time. Like, let's go ahead and create a couple at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Add Assignment Multiple. And so when I do that, I'm greeted with the Add Multiple Assignments wizard here. And so this wizard has these 3 different tabs. And as you go through, you know, you'll kind of sequence along and be able to generate more than one assignment at a time. So first off, I can choose what students this should be for, which is kind of nice. I can create assignments for more than one student at once. I'm going to just choose Campbell. I can choose a subject course. I'll choose ancient history. And let's call these, lessons. We'll go ahead and pick a resource. And let's have these all start at 10 a.m. and go to 11 a.m. And they're also going to be worth 10 points. Now I'll continue to day and date. And what that does, it just kind of moves me along to the next tab here. And so let's say I'm going to have these happen every day. And the start date will be tomorrow, March 1st. Now, I can choose 2 options here. I can either continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted, or I can continue creating items until an end date. I'm going to use this first option because I want to show you how that works. So let's go ahead and continue to PLC. Now, if you remember, PLC stands for Page Lesson Chapter. And if you think about assignments, especially if you're going to be creating more than one at a time, it's probably unlikely that each of those assignments would have the same PLC information, right? So the first assignment might be Chapter 1, the second assignment might be Chapter 2, the third assignment might be Chapter 3, right? And so because that happens often, we've created this tool that allows you to automatically increment the PLC over time as you create assignments. So I have the option, I can have the same PLC for each copy. I could do a 1-part auto increment or all the way up to a 3-part. We're just going to do the 1 part for now. And so what I'll do is I'm going to have the leading text for this generator here to be lesson. Whoops. And I'm going to start with lesson 2 because I already created lesson 1 for today. And I'll go 2, 3, 4. So I'll end with lesson 4 and I'll increment by 1. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm creating this setup here so that as this engine kind of runs, it's going to create multiple assignments for me, and it's going to automatically increment the lesson number by 1 each time. So let's go ahead and continue to preview. So this is a preview of what I'm about to create. So you'll notice that it's going to create an assignment starting tomorrow on March 1st, and that's for lesson 2. And then it's going to create another one on Thursday for lesson 3, and then another one on Friday for lesson 4. So again, this is just a preview. So if I'm good with all this, I can select all of these and then choose accept. But if I want to change anything, I can always go back in here and kind of tweak things and change things as I like. But let's go back here, and I will accept the selected items. And there you go. Now I have 3 additional assignments here to kind of fill out the rest of the week. And it goes lesson 2, lesson 3, and lesson 4. So pretty quickly, you see how I was able to generate more than one assignment at a time. And I was able to also have that PLC automatically increment as well. All right, so let's jump over to the list view. Before I do that, I just want to go over a quick interface tour here in the calendar view. So you have these blue tabs at the top. These are filters. So what we mean by filters is that I can choose, for example, what students I want to view on the calendar, the types of items I want to view on the calendar. If I want to see just items that have been marked incomplete or teacher complete, I can choose that. And then I can also specify what courses and subjects I want to view. Right now I have everything turned on and it says all, but you can kind of drill down into just specific things if you like. We already talked about these kind of date views here and navigating that. There's this button here that's really handy called Export to PDF. So if I click on that, what it'll do is it'll generate a PDF file of whatever I'm looking at. So I can print this out, I could email it. So it's just a really nice way to have kind of a printable version or kind of a hard copy of the calendar view. And then below that here, it says show full day. If I click on that, you'll notice that now I'm seeing all 24 hours of the day in the calendar. If I go to show school hours, it just shows my school hours, which I have set up in my program options. So in this case, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So just another little handy feature there. All right, so let's jump over to the list view. Excuse me. So you remember I mentioned that the agenda can be viewed in both calendar view as well as list view. So the list view is the exact same data that we were just looking at, but it's just presented in a different way, in a list format. So you'll notice here that we have that attendance record that was created. We have this assignment from the 28th today, from 10 to 11 a.m. That's lesson 1, and then we have lesson 2, 3, and 4. So already you can kind of see the advantages of the list view is that I can kind of quickly see at a glance a lot of data, a lot of information about these assignments. I can see that this one's already been graded 90%. These are not marked complete yet. So just another way to kind of consume the data and work with it. The other nice thing about the list view is that I can edit more than one item at a time. So in the calendar view, I had to just do that one item at a time. Here, I can select a few of them and I can change them or modify them. So let me go ahead and I'm going to have those 3 selected. Let's just go up to action and we'll choose multi-edit. And so what I can do is I can grade all of these at once. Let's say she got an 8 out of 10 on all of those, and we will mark them complete as well. Let's go ahead and click save. And there you go. So you'll notice that it generated attendance records for each one of those days, and that they now all have an 80% grade, and they have all been marked complete. So really quick way to modify and to work with your data right here in the list view. So a few things about the list view. Over here on the left, this green area, these are the filters. So just like on the calendar view, you had those blue tabs at the top. Here you can modify the date range that you're looking at, if you want to look at specific students, types of items, etc. And then the grid here itself, the list, you could sort by any of these columns. You can actually sort by more than one column at a time if you like. And you can also group by column. So for example, if I wanted to group by type, I just click and drag this up to here. And now all of my assignments are grouped together. All of my attendance is grouped together. So it makes it really handy to kind of see things at a glance. So that is the agenda list view. All right, so let's dive back over here and just recap. So we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to them and we marked them complete. And we did that from the calendar view as well as the list view. All right, cruising right along into lesson plans. Now, lesson plans are a really popular feature within Homeschool Tracker, but I do want to stress that lesson plans are entirely optional. You know, you don't have to use them. They can be a little bit more advanced. And so what I often recommend is that folks that are just starting out just kind of do what we just demonstrated, you know, create single or multiple assignments at a time, kind of just do that week by week or day by day, just to get a feel for the program and how everything is set up. And then if you find yourself needing to use lesson plans, then dive into them. But I don't know if I would necessarily recommend just starting with lesson plans just because it is a little bit more advanced. But in either way, we're going to cover them here tonight to give you a sense of what you can do with lesson plans. So what are lesson plans? They are a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So what we mean by that is you have what we call lesson plan items, and they are contained within a lesson plan. And basically, they are in a very specific order, and they look a lot like assignments, but they have not yet actually been assigned to anybody or to a specific date. So this is perfect if you want to plan everything out in detail all at once, or if you have a predefined curriculum. So, for example, if you purchased a curriculum, off the shelf sort of thing, it probably came with some kind of lesson plan. You know, it says like on day 1, you should do this. On day 2, you should do this, etc. The nice thing about lesson plans is that means that they're not tied to a particular student, and so they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So, for example, if you created a lesson plan for freshman biology that one student uses, you know, when your younger students get to that course, you can just reuse that same lesson plan for them and not have to recreate all of that. That also means, that you can share and import lesson plans using our shared lesson plan library. And right now, I think we have over 1,000 lesson plans in that library, all created by individual users like yourself and have been shared with the community. So that's nice if you are, say you are using an off-the-shelf curriculum, you might be able to find the lesson plan for that. Or if you're part of a group or a co-op, for example, you can certainly work together to create lesson plans for your curriculum and share them with each other. Okay, so let's do a quick demo on lesson plans. So what we'll do is we'll see an example lesson plan because I think that will help kind of understand what they are. Then we'll create a simple lesson plan. We'll import one from the shared lesson plan library, and then we'll schedule lesson plans and also discuss using presets. Excuse me. All right, so let's jump back to Homeschool Tracker and let's take a look at lesson plans here in the top left here. Now, if you are just starting out, you probably don't have any lesson plans in here. I have a bunch already here, so I'm just going to open up this Abeka arithmetic one. Now, first off, you'll probably notice that this lesson plan screen looks a lot like the agenda list view, right? You have this purple column on the left that these are all your filters. You've got the data here in the middle, kind of in list format. And that's intentional, right? We want to try to keep the paradigms similar across the different screens. So here is the lesson plan. And if you look at one of these items, they look a lot like assignments. So even if I open one up, this looks a whole lot like an assignment, except it's missing a few things, right? It's missing a student and it's missing a date. So it's not really an assignment yet. It's just kind of almost like an assignment template. So until you actually schedule this lesson plan, all it is a lesson plan item. It can't be graded yet. You can't really do much with it. But you can sequence these and kind of get them all ready to go to kind of have your lesson plan ready when you need it. So in this case, on day 1 of this lesson plan, you're doing lesson 1. On day 2, you're doing lesson 2, and so on and so forth. When you get to day 12, you're doing an oral test that's worth 100 points, and also on day 12 is another test worth 100 points. Now, if we scroll all the way down, you'll notice that this kind of sequence continues. And all the way down on day 171, you're doing lesson 171. So we have 202 items here, 171 total days worth of lessons. So really, an entire school year's worth of arithmetic. So that just gives you a sense of what a lesson plan is and what you can do with it. So let's go ahead and create a simple lesson plan. I am going to go to Add, and we'll go to Add Multiple. All right, so let's see here. So if you'll notice, as soon as we did that, we are presented with this wizard that looks a lot like the Add Multiple Assignment wizard. Now it's asking for a lesson plan name, and so it's defaulting to the one that we just were looking at. But what I'll do is we want to create a new one. So I can just type in a new name here, and it'll create a new plan for us. So we'll make this for Ancient History 1, and let's make some lessons. And let's pick a resource. These will all be worth 10 points. And now we'll continue to day numbers. So we'll start on day 1, and we'll increment by 1. Then we'll go to PLC, excuse me, and we'll choose a 1-part auto increment. Let's call this lesson. We'll start with 1, and let's end with, let's go to 15. So let's continue to preview. And so here we go. So again, this is just a preview. So this is what I'm about to create. So on day 1, we do lesson 1, and then all the way on day 15, we're going to be doing lesson 15. So this looks good to me. I'll go ahead and select all, and then choose Accept Selected Items. All right, so now I'm back on the lesson plan screen, and I'm still looking at the Abeka arithmetic one. So let me go ahead and load up that sample plan that we just created. And there you have it. I have a lesson plan with 15 days, 15 lessons. Let's go ahead and add a test to this, though. Let's go ahead and choose Add Single. And I'll go ahead and make this for Ancient History, and we'll call it a test. And we'll say that it's worth 100 points. And we're going to do it on day 16. And we'll click Save. So there you go. I have 15 days worth of lessons, all worth 10 points. And then on day 16, we have a test worth 100. So there you go. Really quickly, I was able to generate a 16-day lesson plan for Ancient History. Now, obviously, if I wanted to create a whole school year's worth of lessons, I could kind of continue this pattern and build that out. But I'd also recommend checking out the lesson planning webinar that I referred to earlier, because we do talk about a number of strategies for building these lesson plans and doing it really quickly and effectively. So definitely check that out if you are interested in lesson planning. All right, so now what I'd like to do is import a import a lesson plan from the shared lesson plan library. So I'm going to jump back over here. And let's go to shared lesson plans right here. Now, what I want to do is I want to just clear this out and hit go. And what that'll do is it'll show me a list of all the shared lesson plans. Oh, hang on a second. Here we go. Here are a list of all the shared lesson plans in the library. And I think I mentioned earlier that I think we have over 1,000 of these now. And many of them, as you can see, are all created, based off-the-shelf curriculum, and they're all created by users just like you. So, lots of really great stuff in here to definitely check out. But let's go ahead and search. I'm going to search for reading, and I want to go ahead and pick this Usborne First Reading Level 1 plan. So I can click on it and get a preview of it. So. This is a 15-day plan. It has all the different resources, the PLC information, etc. I'm going to go ahead and click on Prepare for Import. Now, first off, I can give it a new name. So I'm going to call this Reading 1. And then I can take a look here and choose the items that I want. In this case, I'm just going to select all of them. And before I click on Accept, I did notice that the subject course for all these is just language arts. So if you remember, that means that all of these lesson plan items will fall under just the subject of language arts. Now, I want them to be part of my Reading 1 course. So I could either import these and then multi-edit them later, or I could just change it right now. So I'm going to choose Action, Multi-Edit. And then I'm going to change the subject course to Language Arts / Reading 1. And let's click Save. All right, so there we go. Now I've got that changed. Now you also notice over here under these resources, there's this new in parentheses. That just means that that resource doesn't exist in my current library. But what it'll do is it'll create it as new when I import this, which is nice. So let's go ahead and click on Accept. And so it's now importing all of these lesson plan items into my account. And here we go. So now I'm back in my account, and I have a lesson plan called Reading 1. And here it is, 15 days, and each one of these items is here ready to go. So pretty cool. You know, we just went on the shared lesson plan library, picked a plan that worked for us, and imported it right into our account, ready for use. So that's what I want to do next, is I want to go ahead and use this lesson plan. So let's go ahead and schedule it. So what I want to do is I'm going to select the first 5 days of this, and I want to go to Action, Scheduler. Now I can choose who I want to schedule this for. I'm going to choose Campbell. And then I can choose when I want it to happen. So let's say I'm going to have it start yesterday, because I just want it to use this week here. And let's have it happen every day. And we'll have it from 9 to 10 a.m. And we'll continue until all selected items in the lesson plan are used. If you remember, I selected 5 items. So I'll continue to preview. And here's my preview. So on day 1, that will line up with Monday. And this is day 1. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So this all looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and select all and then choose Accept. All right, so now if I go to the agenda, there you go. I see my 5 assignments here for Campbell, and these are all from that lesson plan. You know, so this is that first day, second day, and so on. Now, what we just saw is we saw a lesson plan item going through the scheduler and then becoming an assignment. Now, the lesson plan item still exists. It's still there, which means we could reuse it. We could use it for a different student. We could save it. You know, we could modify it. But when it runs through that scheduler, what it does is it creates assignments from that lesson plan item. And that's really the power behind lesson plans, is that it's basically like a template for assignments that you've already kind of written up and they're ready to go. So I think you can start to see, you know, the power of lesson plans and, you know, how it might work in your workflow. You know, if you had lesson plans created for all your courses, you could go in and kind of schedule your entire week in advance and know exactly where you left off and what your students need to complete. Okay, so that's the basic scheduler for lesson plans, but there is also a more advanced scheduler that I want to show you real quick. So I'm going to go to the lesson plans and presets page here. Now, the nice thing about the lesson plans and presets page is that it allows you to schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So as you notice from that scheduler that we just did, we were able to schedule one lesson plan and select which items we wanted from it. But in this scheduler, this is kind of like the advanced scheduler, we can schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. So these are all the active lesson plans that Campbell has in this scheduler. I'm going to click on Edit because I want to add that Reading 1 plan to this as well. So I'm going to go ahead and check the box for Reading 1 here. And then I'm going to move on to Preset. Now, presets are really cool. So as you'll see here, this looks just like a calendar, right? Except there's no dates here. These are just the days of the week. And what these are preset blocks of time that I've set up when I want a specific subject course to be scheduled when it comes through this scheduler. So for example, from 9 to 10, Monday through Friday, I have Ancient History 1. From 10 to 11, I have spelling, and so on. what I want to do is I'm going to create a new preset for reading 1. So let's go ahead and click on add. And I can pick the subject course. I'm going to choose reading 1. I'm going to have this happen Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 3 to 4. There you go. So now I've added a preset for reading 1 from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Okay. So now I'm going to go to the scheduler. And so what this advanced scheduler will do is it'll allow me to select multiple lesson plans, and I can schedule whatever time period I want all at once. So here we go. I'm going to select all of these lesson plans. There are 7 lesson plans in total, and I'm going to continue to day and date. So now from this option, what I can do is rather than kind of have this schedule every day like we've been doing, I'm going to choose this one here that says preset. So what that'll do is as the scheduler is running, it's going to look at those lesson plans and it's going to match up the subject course with those preset times that we had on our presets page. And it'll schedule the items at those specific times. Now I'm going to pick a start date. I'm going to choose next Monday because I'm going to schedule all of our next week. And I'm going to continue until next Friday. So just those 5 days of next week. So let's continue to preview. And here we go. We now have 47 items here that we're previewing. And let's just take a quick look. So Ancient History 1 from 9 to 10 on Monday. Then 10 to 11 is spelling. Let's jump over to 3 to 4, right? Because this is our reading 1 plan on Monday. And you'll also notice that it says day 6 here, right? So if you remember, we already scheduled days 1 through 5 on our reading 1 plan for this week. And so it already knows that. And so it's picking up from day 6 here. So that, again, that's kind of the beauty of the lesson plans. It knows where you left off. So you just have to run the scheduler again and it'll pick up where you left off. And so this goes all the way through Friday, 47 items. I'm going to go ahead and select all of these and just choose accept. So now it's creating all of those assignments from those lesson plan items. This section of the program does take a little bit longer because of just how much work that it's doing for us. But I think as you'll see that it definitely pays off. So now if I go to the agenda, okay, so this is this week. If I go to next week, there you go. We have all 47 assignments now set up for next week. Campbell's entire week is already planned and ready to go. So as you can see, like from a workflow perspective, using this advanced scheduler and presets and lesson plans for each one of your courses can really be, a great time saver if you want to get this specific with your scheduling, right? If you don't, no need to go down this path, right? But if you really like to have this level of detail, then Homeschool Tracker can certainly accommodate. All right, so let's go back here and just recap a bit. We saw an example lesson plan. We created a simple lesson plan. We imported one from the lesson plan library. And then we scheduled a lesson plan and we discussed presets. All right, so let's talk a little bit about reports. So as I mentioned at the beginning, reports can be created as PDF files that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis, which I'll show you here in a second. And transcripts and report cards, those can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So obviously you can't really create a transcript or report card if you haven't generated any grades yet. But as soon as you have one graded and completed assignment in a course, then you can create a transcript or report card. But let's take a look at the daily task list because that's the one that gets used most often. Oops. So I'm going to go over to the menu and down to daily task list here in the reports section of the menu. And what we'll do is we'll generate this report for Campbell for all subjects and courses. And let's do it for that week that we just scheduled. So March 6th through 10th. I'll keep all these other options here as kind of the default. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Generate, and then I'm going to click on Pick Up Report. And what that did is it downloaded a PDF file to my hard drive that I can then open up here. So here is the daily task list for Campbell for next week. So Monday, you can see from 9 to 10, she has Ancient History 1. So it's kind of like the agenda, right? It's a list of all the things you have to do, but it can be more specific, and it's a PDF file, so you could print this out, put it on a clipboard or on a bulletin board, and everybody kind of knows what needs to be done. Here's Tuesday. This kind of goes on for the entire week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So here is 4 pages, and it has all of her activities and assignments for the week. So definitely a really handy report. All right, so we are getting near the end here. So let's talk a little bit about workflows, right? So just to recap, you can absolutely create and complete single assignments on a daily basis, right? And especially if you are, just using Homeschool Tracker as kind of a logging tool, I think it works really well for that. You can kind of go through your day as you would normally, and then at the end of the day, go in and add in all the assignments that you did do. And that's also a great way just to get started, right? Because you most likely have some kind of process going already with your homeschool, right? You've got a binder, you have a calendar, you have something that you're using to kind of keep track of what you're doing. But now, at the end of the day, you can start logging all of those things in Homeschool Tracker and really start to take advantage of the reporting tools and all that goes along with that. And then over time, maybe you can start using the other features of Homeschool Tracker and kind of grow from there. The other workflows that we talked about is using lesson plans. And you can use lesson plans and schedule all of your students either using the kind of simple scheduler or the advanced scheduler. We recommend only scheduling like 1 or 2 weeks at a time. There's this kind of temptation to schedule your entire year, all up front. And we definitely recommend just doing like 1 or 2 weeks at a time, because that gives you the most flexibility in the event that you need to reschedule, or if your student works faster or slower, you can really kind of be more flexible. Okay, so I think that does it for our presentation here. We will take some time now to answer questions. Feel free to click on that Q&A button there and submit any questions you may have, and I'd be happy to answer them. And while you're thinking of questions, I do want to mention that for those of you that have attended the webinar tonight, as a sign of our appreciation of you taking the time to spend time with us this evening, we will certainly, we would be happy to credit your account a free month of Homeschool Tracker. So totally on us. And it's really just us saying thank you for spending the time with us, because we know just what a commitment that is. And we really appreciate you kind of spending the energy and the effort to learn Homeschool Tracker so that you can be more successful in your homeschool. So what I'll do is we'll be able to generate a report of everyone that attended tonight, and we'll credit your account accordingly so that you'll get an extra month for free. All right. Let's see. Rachel is asking, what would be the most effective way to input the entire past year's grade classes for my sophomore? We've just discovered the software, awesome, but not sure how to at least reflect quickly the class's grades for transcripts. It's a great question, Rachel, and this actually comes up quite often. So you may remember here where I mentioned that transcripts and report cards can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. So what that means, though, for prior year's work is that all you have to do is create a single assignment with the final grade from that previous course, and you're good to go when it comes to a transcript perspective, right? Because most likely you don't need all of the individual assignments in Homeschool Tracker for something that happened a year ago. There's no sense in kind of adding all that information if you have it somewhere else. But what you can do is basically take the final grade from that course that you probably have calculated or you've received from somewhere else, and just create one assignment for that course during the time period when it happened, and give it that final grade. And then when you generate a report card or transcript from Homeschool Tracker, it'll just pull that one grade, and that'll be the grade for the class. So hopefully that makes sense. I do want to point you to this too. So from our help guide here, I'm just going to search. So we have this section here both for report cards and transcripts, but the process is the same. But it basically says creating a transcript for prior years. If you click on that, there's kind of, this is a lot of text, obviously, but it gives you a guide on how you can do that. And basically, it's, you know, explaining what I just mentioned. Create subjects and courses for all the courses that you had in previous years, and then just create one assignment in each one of those during the time when it happened, and give it that final grade, and you should be good to go. So thank you for your question, Rachel. Hopefully that is helpful. All right, anonymous viewer asked, where is the undo button when you mess up rescheduling? That's a great question. There is no undo button, sorry. But I will say that's why we have that preview, right? So if you remember, on most screens, when you're doing kind of a big action, whether it be you know, making assignments, or I believe, yeah, on rescheduling also, there's always a preview, right? And so it's really important to make sure that you use that preview screen to you know, confirm that what you want to do is actually what you want to do before you accept those items, right? But unfortunately, there isn't an undo after that, right? So we just give you kind of a check before you do something, and after you go through that check, if you've already done it, unfortunately, there isn't an easy way to undo that. Okay, so Chris is asking, I saw that you had some subjects with more than one task in a subject. Wait, let's see. I saw that you had some subjects with more than one task in a subject on one day. Is that covered on your lesson plan webinar, or can you cover that now? I think I know what you're asking here, Chris. So let me just see if I can pull this up. And please forgive me if this is not what you're asking, but like for right here, where it's day 12, and you see day 12 more than once. Sorry, another question just came in that I was distracted by. So if you see day 12 more than once and there's more than one item, basically, yes, you can have more than one assignment or lesson plan item in this case for the same day and for the same subject course. In fact, there's really no limit. You can have as many as you want. And so you can create that in your lesson plan, or you can assign that however you wish in the agenda itself. But we do cover that in the lesson planning webinar, Chris. So, you know, for everybody out there that is all interested in lesson plans, I definitely recommend checking that out, because it really goes in depth on strategizing around lesson plans and how to create them. Okay, so Rachel asks, thanks. Could you go through the multiple assignments section again? I'd like to know a little bit more about frequency, like having to double up math lessons. Not that we have to do that. So I'm not sure what you mean by doubling up math lessons, but certainly we could take a look at the adding multiple assignments again. So if you recall, you know, from the agenda, whether it be the calendar view or the list view, you can choose add assignment multiple. And I'll just kind of run through kind of a demo here again. So I can choose what students I want, Campbell or Manning in this case. And let's go ahead and pick we'll do math, might as well. And we'll call these lessons. And let's have these happen from, you know, 11 to 12. We'll do this week here. And these will each be worth 10 points. And let's continue to day and date. And so I think maybe this is what you're talking about, Rachel, the day options here. So when you're creating multiple assignments, you can, and I just want to make sure I remember this correctly, you can have them happen each and every day, right? So every one day, I could have it happen every 2 days, kind of every other day sort of thing, every 3 days, however you want to do it. I can have it happen on a weekly basis. So I could choose like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every week, or every 2 weeks, you know, however you want to do that. Every month, you know, on day 1 of every month, etc. Okay, Rachel's asking, it was on the PLC section. Okay, so that makes sense. I'll get there in a second here, and we'll cover that as well. Or I could spread these evenly between a date range. So let's just stick with daily, as that's probably the most common option, if not the weekly option. and we will choose this week. And we'll do continue until PLC pattern is exhausted. Okay, so now the PLC pattern generator here is really powerful. It can get, I wouldn't say confusing, but it's just really powerful, right? So, I can have the same PLC for each one of these, which could certainly happen. Or I could do a 1-part auto increment, which is what we demoed earlier. So if I wanted it to start with, lesson one. So the leading text here is literally the text that doesn't change, right? So in this case, the text lesson, those letters would never change in my pattern, right? But what does change are the numbers after that. So if I want to start with number 1, I'll choose 1, and I can choose what I want to end with. So I could choose 10, I could choose 100, I could choose whatever I want here, right? And this will also kind of determine how many copies I'm going to create, how many assignments I'm going to create. If I choose 1,000 and I increment by 1, it's literally going to make 1,000 of these. I think it caps it off at 999. I don't want to do that because that'll be way too many. But let's say I want to do 10 of them, and I can increment by 1. It'll create lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, all the way to 10. You can also use letters for this. So I could start with A and end with F, and it will go A, B, C, D, E, F. And then you can also have trailing text. So if it was like lesson 1, B or something, I could put B in there, and now they would all say lesson 1B, lesson 2B, etc. I didn't mention this earlier, but you can click on this little button here where it says sample, and it'll give you kind of a little sample of what it's going to look like. It only shows you the first 4, but it is kind of handy to see, what it's going to look like. Now, if you want to get into a 2-part auto increment, this adds a second part to that first automatic increment. So this is where it starts to get slightly confusing, but really powerful. So for example, you might see something that says like lesson 1A, lesson 1B, lesson 1C, lesson 2A, lesson 2B, lesson 2C. So how would you do that? You would need to use a 2-part auto increment. So let's just try a quick example. I'm going to use letters. And so it's going to go lesson 1, and then it's going to start with A and end with B. Okay. So if I see a sample of that now, lesson 1A, lesson 1B, lesson 2A, lesson 2B. So that's really powerful because, you may run across that in like a workbook or something, and you want to kind of mimic the pattern that they have in that book. And you do need to be cognizant of the fact that, like, if I'm doing 10 lessons and each one of them has, an A and a B, I'm going to be creating, 20 assignments here, just based off of this kind of scenario. So, you definitely want to kind of understand and plan ahead. And again, in that lesson planning webinar, we cover a lot of this. We really go in depth on it. So hopefully, Rachel, that answers your question. But definitely check out that lesson planning webinar. I think you might find it helpful. All right, so let's see. Jana says, didn't mean to make that anonymous. Lesson plans are the answer. Used Homeschool Tracker years ago. Having fun messing up this week. Thank you. Okay. Hopefully, I mean, it's good to mess up, right? I mean, that's how we learn. So, that's the thing. Like, there's nothing to be scared of, right? Especially if you're just starting out. So play around with it. Try some things. If you mess up, it's easy enough to delete things. If you really mess up, you can always email us and we can kind of reset your account. But there's always a way out, right? And I think as you go through it, you'll get much more comfortable. And I mean, you guys have seen kind of how quickly I'm kind of flying through things here. And I apologize if it's too fast, but that's the kind of level that you can get to, right? Once you've used it enough, it just becomes kind of second nature in terms of something that you use every day. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. So any other questions out there? Doesn't look like it. Well, thank you guys so much. Again, we have been recording this, so we will send a replay of the recording to each and every one of you. And also, like I mentioned, we'll also credit each and every one of you with a free month of Homeschool Tracker. If you're not yet a subscriber, we'll know that when we take a look, and we'll be sure to send you a code so that you can become a subscriber with a free month. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining us. And again, please don't hesitate to reach out via email if you have any other questions. And have a great night. We hope to see you guys again soon. Thanks.